Man, playoff basketball is hilarious. One moment you are comfortably on your way out of the playoffs. The next moment you are playing a favorable matchup and you are comfortably on your way to the conference finals. Now, it's too early to say that for sure. Nothing actually happens or the series does not start until a road team wins a game, which the Pistons won both their home games, so they have protected home court. But through these first two, Cleveland is struggling with the same things they were struggling against Toronto with. I'm gonna tell you what I've seen from Cavaliers basketball so far. I have not seen them look comfortable offensively for the majority of a game since game 1 and probably some of game 2 against the Raptors. And specifically, once the Toronto Raptors took the pick and roll spam off the table for Cleveland and took the infinite ISOs off the island basketball, everything for Cleveland for the most part has been tough. Obviously, they closed in game 7. They did what they were supposed to do. Shout out to the bigs and Jared Allen. That worked out. But for 2 quarters of that game, they were playing Toronto's game. And the problem is going up against Detroit, the Pistons are pretty much a supercharged version of Toronto. So where they both obviously have defense and they have a versatile team, the Pistons are deeper and they have that superstar 3-level scoring threat, which with the Raptors, there's nothing consistent in terms of that. And it's kind of the main thing I was pointing out for Cleveland the whole year was, once they got James Harden, because that's when we started taking seriously the fact that they might be able to get out of this East. But if you watch them after that trade, sure, Donovan Mitchell has somebody else to help with the offense now, and we already know the benefits there. And you do know the drawbacks of having Harden on your team, especially in the playoffs. Defensively, I don't really need to go through that, but it's also been pretty bad offensively. Through the first 2 games here, he's got 7 turnovers in game 1, 4 turnovers in game 2, and also went 3 of 13. And Cleveland's problem with a lot of teams in actually getting to the finals and winning a championship was always going to be Dean Wade. That is the one guy on this roster who has size and then can knock down shots. So the size is related to his defense and him being able to match up with guys, but he's not a great defender. He just is the best option that they really have. After him, it's trade-off after trade-off. Keon Ellis, small. Max Strus, he's a shooter. He'll try on defense, but he's not a defender. He's not really sturdy. Sam Merrill, small. He's a shooter. All of these guys can try on defense, but there's a trade-off. And that was my take pretty consistently for the Cavaliers, is they're missing 1 or 2 of those real two-way guys to back up Harden and Mitchell because, again, you know the drawbacks of having Harden defensively, and Mitchell's not a defender either, and he's also your star player. He's not really supposed to be your best defender. But that's another issue because Cade, he'll get blown by, he'll foul, but Cade can play defense. Cade can get switched on to another star and get a stop. He'll get a block. For Harden or Mitchell, it's rarely ever the case for either of them. And so there's one issue. And that was going to make them matching up with any teams that had like wing level stars or really just 3-level scoring threats. That was always going to make it difficult. But specifically for Detroit, and you notice the Pistons here having an easier time than they did with the Orlando Magic, it's pretty simple. Detroit has multiple ways to attack Cleveland's defense, which is why I'm looking at that quote now from a couple of months ago where the Cavaliers played Detroit, they beat them. I don't believe they had Harden or Mitchell in that game, and they came out, there was anonymous quotes coming out where they're like, oh, they're not in our tier. And fair to feel that way at the time, but it's aging poorly because, again, they don't have a Cade defender. Then Tobias Harris is coming off a series where he's played really well. I just watched Tobias Harris be able to get that same post-up option off on multiple guys. Again, Harden, Strus, whoever. There's not really a non-preferred matchup there. And of course, you do the thing for your bigs and like an Evan Mobley, you try to have him roam off of Isaiah Thompson. But Isaiah Thompson, A, was forcing himself to be effective in that Magic series. And B, in this one, just flat out has ways to do it. Some of his buckets really feel like they're in the flow. He is probably, I would say, of the crop of players, of modern players that shoot like Tony Allen, but still find themselves in games because of defense and such, he might be the most useful in the league, or pretty close to it. His athleticism, the cutting, the intangibles, his IQ really. He just kind of knows where to be, when to be there, when to take certain shots, and that hurts for Cleveland because guys will have their back turned, he's cutting. Guys will have their back turned, they didn't notice he wasn't boxed out. So Thompson being out there is not the free assignment that New York had with Dyson Daniels. They tried to use Dyson and they were doing okay, at least getting him to the right spots for a certain amount of time, but Dyson Daniels is just not that skilled, he's not that athletic. Thompson is less of a free assignment and more of just, oh, well, we would rather have our big be able to roam off of him and recover if he has to, or get to him on the drive. But it's not a super duper advantage the way you would think it would be. You keep going down the line, Dennis Jenkins looks comfortable, closer to what he was looking like at the end of the regular season. Why does he look comfortable? Because he's not getting hounded anymore. First of all, Again, not being able to start with any solid defense or any dependable defense on Cade means a lot of the times you're showing him 2. You already know when you have to show somebody 2, that just opens up shots for other guys. But then when Dennis has the ball, he's not being hounded by Jamal Cain. He's not being shut down. He's not driving into other defensive bodies. Duncan Robinson able to float around off ball, catch Cavs defenders sleep. I just named like 4 or 5 ways that they can attack Cleveland in a way that it was a little bit harder for them to attack the Magic, especially when healthy. So this is the thing that has been consistent about the Detroit Pistons. They are deep, they are versatile, and against a team that is really not that defensively sound, they have ways to score. That's part of why they have 60 wins, even though you would look at the roster and not really understand it. The Cavaliers, again, kind of to the point I was talking about earlier, I especially against Detroit, I don't see them looking comfortable creating anything. When they score, it's Donovan Mitchell made an amazing shot, or he did something really cool where he drags the ball over people's heads, or James Harden finally got a floater to go, or some 3 win. But nothing is really that easy ever. There aren't a lot of breakdowns in Detroit's defense. The pick and roll shit, the tape is just out there. Again, from Toronto, that tape is out there. There's multiple ways to stop a pick and roll, and especially if you're a team like Detroit that is as good defensively as they have been, it's not a hard thing. So now Cleveland will try to get to their island ball, and playing island ball with a team that has been strapping the league the entire year is tough. And it does hurt here that Evan Mobley, to me, is just not the force that you would have hoped he would be by now. That's the thing. You'll have Cavs fans point out box scores to you about Mobley when he has a good game, but I have sat through Evan Mobley games where his box score comes out nice. Oh yeah, he had 18 and 9, he had 18 and 11, whatever, and it looks really good. But when I watched the game, it didn't really feel that imposing. And I feel the same way here, because in a series where if Harden or Mitchell cannot consistently and comfortably create, you have a guy like Mobley who is bigger than everyone on the floor. This is the time where you really wish you could give the ball to him and have him actually go to work consistently. He's a good player, but his creation, especially for what he's paid, it has a long way to go. Oh, and that's the other part Detroit has over Toronto, is technically down low. Yeah, they've got a little bit better size, better physicality to match Cleveland's bigs, because Jared Allen is another guy who can have a good game, who could put up good numbers. But in that Raptors series, there was times when Murray Boyles was dogging both of them. And now you're down there with an all-star big who is bigger, stronger, more physical. I don't know if you're going to get that game 7 like you had with Toronto, where he just started imposing his will, basically, because he's a good foot taller than everybody damn near. Then you start going down Cleveland's bench, and once again, there's not a ton there. Dennis Schroeder, he's had better years, and he's not a reliable creator. Strus gives a lot of effort on both sides, in my opinion, but at the end of the day, that's really a release valve shooter. They don't have almost anybody who, unless they're hitting a bunch of threes, they don't have another creator to come in and give them that punch. So they've lost 2 close games, and they're going to head back to Cleveland. And there will be adjustments, but with Detroit halfway to a series win right now, I kind of wonder, where do you find the advantages? Because even since the beginning of the year, it's been a note for Detroit. Cool, we're going to try to go at Duncan Robinson. You saw the Magic do it. Everyone tries it every now and then, but again, the Pistons play good team defense, and like I just said, you don't have anybody on the bench to do this. Really, it kind of comes down to Donovan Mitchell, because James Harden doesn't give a ton of downhill pressure these days. When he switches on to Duncan, if he cooks him, he cooks him. But in terms of who you really have to worry about slicing and dicing, that's Mitchell. Harden can get downhill and maybe get a floater or such, but he's not as much of an advantage on Duncan as you would think. And another thing I would be worried about is they came into the 4th quarter of game 2. It was a close game. So whereas game 1, the Cavs had to play themselves back into it, they kind of had to play themselves back into it here too. Detroit was in control for a while, but they had a really good 3rd quarter. And so in the 4th, you kind of wonder, what if the impossible shot making starts for one of those 2? But they just don't get comfortable enough shots so far for that to be so much of an issue. All right, so here's the issue, right? The Cavs might score in this possession, but look how they're not going to get into anything comfortable, most likely. So Thompson, full pressure. You're going to get this Allen screen that's not going to lead to anything. You see Dennis Jenkins tagged over. Harden gets it back. Mitchell is going to have to take a tough contested step back shot. And that right there is the quintessential Cleveland Cavalier playoff possession ever since pick and roll got taken off the table for them. And Detroit does almost everything better than them. Some of the cliche stuff, the hustling, the energy, That goes to Detroit by a mile. But then all the other matchup things we've already discussed. I watched Kid Cunningham have Jared Allen on the switch and prefer James Harden, which that's an obvious thing. But I just thought it was funny that in most scenarios, the guard would want the big, but Harden is such a defensive liability. Cade said, give me him. Yeah, look, one thing is clear. Whoever said it on Cleveland's roster, the Pistons are definitely, as a matter of fact, right now, they're just above their tier. And at a minimum, hopefully you can get Harden to clean these turnovers up, but that's going to be difficult because that's kind of Detroit's MO, is forcing those, and Harden has an MO for these things kind of happening at this time of year. The Cavs did have chances in this one. Donovan Mitchell missed some important shots. There was one where they did break down Detroit's defense. He just missed, and that was at an important time in the fourth. He went 2 of 9 on threes. If you can't at least squeeze some more out of him and clean up some of the other things that's been happening with Harden, they'll lose this series because it's already not a good matchup for them to begin with, and any other mistakes or negatives are just adding on. Well, we'll see what happens. The series is never over after it's 2-0, so I will be interested to see if Detroit is going to punch their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since, yeah, it's definitely been since 2008. It's almost 20 years. Let me know what you think about the series so far in the comment section below, while leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.